Emily Shields.
I'm Allison Hagensick.
And I'm Brecklin Sheedy.
With Court Vision.
Who's going to win the men and women's March Madness tournaments?
For the women, I think it's going to be UConn. And for the men, I think it's going to be Duke with the Badgers in the finals.
We have winning the women's and men's March Madness tournament.
For women's, I have UConn because they're a really outstanding team, and then I have Duke because they have been grinding and just locked in their whole season, and I think they're going to win because they're best.
We have winning the men's and women's March Madness tournament.
For the men's, Arizona, because it's hot there. Yeah. And for the women, UConn all the way. Duh.
We have winning March Madness for men's.
I had Arizona winning.
We have winning the March Madness women's and men's.
Women's, I got UCLA. Go Bruins. I can't stand UConn. And for the men, I got Arizona. Go Cats, baby.
Who's going to win the March Madness tournament, girls and boys?
For boys, I have Duke, and for girls, I have UCLA.
Okay, now let's get into some potential upsets or losses that a team we were not expecting to have that might happen this season.
First, I think that what a potential upset is for LSU is they didn't really have a good season, and then they ended up not doing very good during March Madness. So that really is sad for them and like their fans because they are a well-rounded team and they have good coaches.
I think that UCLA, I don't know if they're gonna get quite beat. I mean, maybe they'll get beat, but I feel like they're gonna have a lot of tough competition, and they're gonna play somebody really good. And I think that that's gonna kind of humble them a little bit, because obviously they're not really used to a lot of pressure. So I think that might give them, somebody will give them a better game than they've been getting in the Big Ten Conference.
I think that South Carolina, that they might get better games to be played. Like the Texas game, it was kind of close, but yet South Carolina, they just need to play their better game and get their wins down, and that could be an upset on their behalf.
Looking at each region, let's kind of decide what region we think is one of the most powerful and strongest, and who, we look at that region, who would win a battle, out of all the regions, who would win the battle?
For me, I don't really know. I think all the regions are really good. They have great teams, and then the teams that struggle sometimes, but they have room for improvement. I think Big East maybe for one of the strongest, just because UConn is a big competition for them, and maybe you see Big Ten for UCLA too. But I also think SEC is also a really strong conference.
Yeah, for me it's probably gonna have to be SEC because they always work really hard, and obviously all the teams are really good. But SEC, when you look at them, they definitely work the hardest and sometimes have the best techniques and moves. And all of them come from everywhere, and the SEC is such a big conference, and they're good at literally everything. Football, basketball, softball, everything. They're just all really good at.
Yeah, I go off of Allison and Lily off of that. They both have great conferences and regions. The SEC is just bigger and has more competition. They just have a lot more teams that they can compete against that are all good. And then the Big East, for basketball, there's not many that are very good except for UConn.
Yeah, the Big East definitely, UConn would carry them in anything.
Yeah.
And none of them are very good.
Yeah, I
think
UConn. Big East is UConn is the main team, and yeah, SEC is probably one of the stronger conferences.
Yeah, and I also feel let's talk about injuries, because injuries are really common in women's sports, especially women's basketball. So if we think of Iowa, Taylor McCabe, just let's talk about some worries, some injuries that are very popular, and one way to we think that we should try to watch out for them.
Yeah, like example, like tearing your ACL, that is a big upset for an injury, especially if it's one of your like starting five or one of your key players. It just is really upsetting for any player from any team to get hurt or get injured really bad.
Yeah, ACL is probably one of the most common ones, but also probably like hamstrings. That's really popular. Just like anything like down low in the legs, because obviously you work really hard on your legs, and almost like in all women's sports, I feel like it's really common to get injured in women's sports, which sucks. But yeah.
Yeah, I'd also say ACL the most. Probably most people have that, and just like having like the starting person who probably might lead your team with scoring points, that could be like a big upset for you, because then you have to like get a person off the bench, but it'd be good to have like a good person off the bench to just come in and set the game and carry the team.
Yeah, that's back on like when we were talking about like what makes a team tournament worthy. Just having those extra players, because injuries are always possible, and no matter how well you stretch or strength train, you can always get hurt, which is super annoying because there's no really way to stop it. Because if you just fall the right way or get hit the right way, you're out for
It's
the
just one wrong move and you're out for the rest of the season or longer.
Yeah. Now we're gonna get into a bracket breakdown. So we're gonna be talking about who we have picked, where we have them picked, and why we picked them there. So we're gonna start off with, we're each gonna say in a line what teams we picked from each region.
Starting with Big Ten, we chose UCLA, Iowa, and Michigan. We think this because they are well-rounded teams, and most of the time they're good to their teammates, and their coaches do really well coaching them. They're not just like go out there and play. They actually give them tips and try to bring them up and tell them that you can do this, and just keeping them positive.
And then for our SEC, we have South Carolina, Texas, Vanderbilt, and LSU. Now this does have more than some of the other teams, just because the SEC conference always comes to show up and show out. I don't think I've ever watched a dull game from the SEC. They just always have, maybe sometimes not the best attitude, but they're definitely fun to watch.
And for the Big East, we have UConn and Villanova. UConn's just been showing out. They haven't lost like a game this year. And Villanova, they've just kind of showed themselves, and they've just gotten better.
I personally think that if anything, they should change the Big East Conference. I mean, we were trying to change UCLA into a new one. Why wouldn't we just put UCLA in the Big East at that point? Because the competition there is not there.
Yeah.
UConn, I mean, they've beaten all their teams, because who do they play? Villanova. Villanova's lost like 16 games, which it's good to lose games and good to get better. But
like you're not
lose by a lot.
yeah. And when you play, and there's like no teams in their conference, and like you go down the line, it starts at UConn, and they're like 45-0, and then it just goes 16 and 18.
Just keeps going down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's good that UConn wins a lot, but for those other teams, it kind of sucks because they have like this one team that just wins it all, but it's good to get better.
Yeah, and just like imagine going into a game against a team who has won 13 championships. Their coach has won 13 championships. They've lost like no games this season and no games last season. Won the NCAA tournament last year. Imagine the feeling, and especially knowing if you've lost like 16 games. Like imagine the feeling of going into a game like that. That's where like the mental game takes over. So now let's identify some potential upsets. So let's each go and just say some upsets that we think might happen.
An upset that I think is like really common is just not having a good attitude towards your teammates and to the opposing team. I think it's just good that you need to stay positive and keep your teammates up and have good sportsmanship.